Hello, every peoples of all time, across all spans of time, and all people. You know what? Let's include all people. Welcome to the Listening Show, a show you can listen to.
I haven't used that in a while.
If we introduce the show with our names, that'd be a good time to have done it. Like, my name is Walter, and you have like, oh, it's just Walter. My name is Walter. I was going for any button now.
No, I was giving you with that one. And my name is Zach.
Yeah. No, wait, isn't there a boo button or like a hiss or a
That's
crowd?
the best one. There's also...
There you go. Yeah.
That would have been better.
My name is... Hello, welcome to the Listening Show. My name is Walter.
And I'm Zach. Yeah.
All right.
Warn the people about your occurrences.
It's a surprise if it happens. It probably won't happen. Don't worry about it.
All right,
It'll be quick anyway.
Okay.
Talking about death, by the way.
We might get interrupted by a phone call. Is all you need to know.
Yeah.
If that happens, then
if it happens,
screw
it's my
you,
fault.
and then you're gonna have to deal with it. You know, sometimes I'm gonna tell you guys something, you listeners, you supposed listeners. In life, you don't always get what you want. So sometimes you have to wait for things. Okay?
Are you talking to the listeners or me?
Listeningers.
Yeah, it sounds oddly offhanded. Not that there's anything specific.
But I'm just sick of their shit right now. They don't think that everything is what it is, but it is.
They don't have to think. They just have to listen.
I'm sick of and tired of everybody not listening.
Okay.
Okay.
To find the topic, number one, is there something specific you wanted to talk about, yes or no?
There's always something I want to talk about.
It's a yes or no question. Was there something specific you wanted us to talk about?
No.
Now, between two segues or two trees, would you rather talk about something meaningful and important and something superficial and stupid?
Stupid. I'm in a stupid mood.
All right. Now, you ask the next question.
Okay.
You can start a topic or put more trees for me to go down.
Okay.
Trees is not the right word.
My question is, if you had to do a job, but it's a job that nobody likes. What do you think a job is that nobody likes?
You know, I don't think there is a job that nobody likes. I think there's somebody who would like that job. I think there's a job that most people don't like septic tank cleaners. Most people probably don't like it. I'm certain there's somebody who does like it.
You think somebody likes cleaning septic tanks?
Yes. I know somebody does. That's why I use that example.
How do you know who does?
Because I saw a show called Dirty Jobs. I didn't see the show. I saw the episode.
Okay.
It was pretty great.
They're like, I'm proud that I'm a septic tank cleaner.
No, it was more honest and profound than that.
I'm proud that I'm a septic tank cleaner.
Because this reminds me of who I am on the inside.
I'm cleaning my own fecal waste and matter in my life.
So I can't remember what he used to be. He used to be in some more prestigious position, making more money, whatever, socially a better job, whatever. And the host, Mike Rowe, you know the name, right? Yeah. Talking to him, why did you choose to do this instead, right? And he goes, I guess I just got tired of cleaning other people's shit. Oh, what was the job? It made way more sense. Like he was a lawyer, I think, or something. I guess I just got tired of dealing with other people's shit, which was a joke.
Yeah.
But anyway, he found what he did more, I don't know, it meant more to him, right? To do something with his hands or whatever. He liked it more than his other job. So anyway, yes, I do think somebody likes being a septic tank cleaner, or someone likes logging, or someone likes being a construction worker. Now, Mike, the bottom end of that question, when you asked it, I thought, well, what is the worst job that there is? What counts as a job? Because, I mean, I thought maybe you're going to go, do you think slaves like their job? Like, that's not a job. So what's the worst job you can think of? It's technically really a job to where you could challenge me on. Do you think one person likes this job? Because I think there is one person, typically at least, who likes that job. Do you disagree?
I would say it probably has something to do with sales.
Do you think the worst job is somewhere in sales?
I don't know. There's several really bad jobs. I always made the statement that mine
Right. I knew you were going there, or
no,
that it was stemming from that.
But I know objectively that's not true. I think that any job can be made the worst job ever. Any job can be, depending on the circumstances.
Sure.
I'm talking, when I ask the worst job, I'm saying independent of any other factors. Like, let's say it doesn't matter what your manager's like, or what your coworkers are like, or what your customers are like, or any of that stuff, or the jobs you have to do. By itself, what would be the worst job?
Okay, so to make this fair, let's say that in order to pay your bills and not live comfortably but live is, let's say it's $30,000 a year, whatever the X dollars. Now this job you're going to work is going to pay this X regardless of whatever job it is you're working, to make it fair. Since you said we can't consider the work environment or all that stuff, it's just the work itself, because otherwise why would you work? The job you're going to do is going to pay the same amount as any other job. What is the worst job? So maybe it doesn't pay as much as it should, because you're digging ditches and it pays $30,000. Would you rather do that or sit behind a desk to make $30,000? Argue the ditch digging is worse. So is that a fair standard for our exploration of what is the worst job?
I guess that's fair enough. Some jobs are obviously worth more money.
Because a job behind a desk with horrible employees and a boss that pays more could be worse than a ditch digging job with great people that pays less but still pays your bills. So to make it fair, all jobs pay the same.
I'm not going to lie, though. I've been working desk jobs for a while, and ditch digging sounds better to me.
Hey, I don't disagree.
And I bet that for ditch diggers, they might say the opposite. They might say it sounds better to work at a desk 8 hours a day than to be a ditch digger. It literally, if you've been doing anything too long, anything sounds better than what you do.
The grass is always greener. But to me,
fair, I'm like, you get to be outside, and then you get to just like work with your body, and you don't have to sit and stare and have manufactured lights light your desk all day, and then you don't have to deal with all the autocracy that is management structures and how like self-gratifying they are, and then reward systems are the worst in those jobs too. It's like they don't anyway. Like ditch diggers, if you dig a ditch, then you did it. As long as you're actually digging ditches, good job. But in a desk job, it's not, your work isn't necessarily quantifiable. It's like, well, how do I know it took you 2 hours to work that Excel spreadsheet? It's like, well, did you want to watch me? It's like nobody know. So people can like, there can be questions as to if you're working. Whereas if you dig ditches, is the ditch dug? Then you did your job. Good job.
I'm going to limit the conversation and give you two choices. Do you want to talk about which one you think is worse, a desk job or a physical job? Or do you want to explore what you think the worst job is?
I know what's worse between those two.
Okay.
It is a desk job.
Okay.
That is worse.
Now, on that tree, do you want me to argue against, or I should say not argue against, it's more about arguing for the desk people to make the conversation interesting, or just agree with you if I agree?
You can do whatever you want.
I could do whatever I want. Well, by going by my own, what would you call that, advice to give people, depends on what you personally like. Do what you enjoy. Otherwise, what's the point, is what I say, which is superficial, but like it's a good advice toward happiness. It depends on who you are is the answer, if the short answer. So for you, knowing who you are, assuming you didn't work a desk job right now, and I had to guess which job I think you would enjoy more, I'd pick ditch digging over, because you're a physical person.
I want to separate disposition out of it. I'm talking with it doesn't depend on who you are. Strictly.
You mean objectively then?
Strictly what the job does and what need the job satisfies in society. Just based on that, what's worse, a desk job, or obviously depends on the desk job or the labor job for sure too. But I'm just saying in general, what the job entails and what benefit it does to people, what's worse. And I think objectively desk jobs are worse.
So you're not just talking about yourself. You're thinking
No. I'm thinking, like, I actually thought objectively about this, and to me, it kind of, this might give away, or this might influence what you think. Maybe if I've thought it through good enough, it would. But like desk jobs, all they produce is things that can be produced at a desk, whereas manual labor jobs have the potential to produce anything.
I agree with that.
And technically, things produced at a desk can be world changing, but it's only world changing in a technological sense or a numerical sense. So it's like,
I understand. Okay. That isn't what I thought you were talking about. I thought you were talking about like an individual. For you, what's best or worst for for a worker, not for society? That's a different question. Because when it comes to societal or how it benefits people, absolutely, it's the physical stuff, because you can't have the desk that you work on without the what's the word? Furniture maker who made the desk. Whatever.
Right.
You need the physical stuff. You can have ditch diggers, but you can't just have desk jobs.
Right.
If you have desk jobs, you will have ditch diggers. Anyway, they're more important.
Right. It's got the same idea as rights and responsibility. You don't get the rights without the responsibility first. It's like one produces the other, so it's more necessary.
Responsibilities will always exist.
But even more than that, I think I could probably justify it being better than a desk job without the whole end result thing.
Okay, that's the conversation I'm more interested in. For the worker, not for society, which one is better or worse?
So for the worker, I think desk jobs are worse for you because, first of all, it's worse for your body. You actually have to sit down at a desk in order to get your work done. Maybe technically you get more work done and maybe it's better, or maybe you feel better about the work, but it's literally worse for you because you don't have as much movement and kinesthetic. Your body gets no work. It slowly deteriorates. So that's the first thing. It's literally more unhealthy. And secondly, I think it's mentally more unhealthy too, because like your mind does better when it does things like actively. Anyway, so for those two things, I think it's literally worse for people, even if it's financially better or socioeconomically better. I think it's worse for workers too.
I agree with those. I mean, I could put that into one point. Health is absolutely better for you as a human mammal to do a physical job. That is not the debate or question I want to ask. We're getting closer. What I want to ask is, given the choice between I'm going to clock in as a ditch digger or a desk worker, and they pay the same, which one am I going to choose? Which one should I choose because one is objectively better? That's the question I want to ask. And would you still maintain that I should choose to dig ditches? And this isn't a trap. I'm trying to clarify what you
Obviously,
think.
like work has value and different work has different value because it just is. Like some is more specialized and all of those things should be accounted for. So it's not really fair to say.
So you're going to go back to my answer of it depends on who you are?
No, I'm going to say it depends on a lot of things, including who you are. But like, okay, here's the thing. Technically, this is the way you should ask the question. Is it better to work a job where you sit at a desk? Who knows what you're doing? Maybe it's specialized coding. Maybe it's simple Excel spreadsheet stuff. Or maybe it's typing. Maybe you're writing.
Maybe ditch digging is literally holding a slow down sign on the street.
Sure,
I don't want to muddy this. I want to keep it as
I'm just saying strictly labor or desk job. That's it. And by just those two differences, labor's better. It's just better. Like is my thing.
Okay, so
that's independent of specializations.
I'm trying to put your advice into practice. I'm trying to see if it fits. So I'm imagining somebody goes to a therapist and goes, "I'm unhappy. I'm going to get a job. I don't know what I want to do." Then if ditch digging is more, what's the word? Good.
I don't want to use ditch digging as labor. Just
Fine,
some
whatever.
labor job.
Laborer versus sedentary. You know what I'm talking about. Thank you for making my terms more clear. I was trying to be vague by saying ditch digger. I mean literally, but fine. A laborer versus a clerk, whatever the word is. You would then you would say as a counselor, you'd say to this person, it'd be good for you if you took the labor the manual labor job. That'd be more fulfilling for you. It'd be a more good thing for you to do.
Yeah. Well, again, it's not just as simple because I would say also, unfortunately, a lot of things that come with labor jobs don't make them better. Like there's not protections for it. Like even though it's good for your body, it also is taxing on your body, and there's not a lot of protections for some of those people sometimes.
Yeah.
So there's too many externalities. Technically, maybe the best chance you have at having a good job is a desk job because it's safer. Technically, that might be true.
It's really interesting
in a practical sense, but removed from everything, if you had a good job and you had people that worked good for you and things went well at your job, it'd be better to have a labor job.
Yeah, we've removed those variables earlier.
So, but you actually, like putting it into practice is way more complicated. Like as a therapist, you wouldn't recommend a person who's had a desk job for 15 years just go into labor.
No, this person doesn't have a job. They need to go get a job. They don't know what they want to do. And the therapist, because they want what's good for the patient, that's not the word, is it?
Sure.
Whatever.
Client.
Whatever.
Patient client.
Yes, whatever the word is. The therapist wants what's good for his patient, and because a manual labor job is more good than a desk job, then it would make sense for the therapist to then therefore recommend a manual labor job, right?
So when as soon as you bring up therapist, you make it practical, and in practical sense, it's not easy.
I'm trying to just say what's good or bad, or better or worse.
But again, once you bring it into real terms, like this is in the theoretical world where you reduce things all the way, then yes, labor job is better. But in the actual literal world, it's worse for a lot of reasons, and I don't want to like ignore those. So as soon as you bring it to practically,
I was gonna get
a therapist is gonna give someone advice. If the therapist was guaranteed that the job would be a good job, then yes, I would say that's the case. But there's no guarantees of that. In fact, it's kind of the opposite. It's like,
so then, what should the client choose?
That's why it's up to individuals. They have to pick.
You just said it wasn't.
Yeah, it is.
I think it's up to individual, and you say it's more complicated than that.
No, you said it's up to the therapist, and then it's an easy choice.
Originally.
Okay.
And then you said no, so I try to put the whatever. Okay.
No, I do want to understand why. Because I didn't say that. I don't know what I did say, but I was disagreeing with something else.
We could start over. Because I had a very clear in my head path of where the conversation was going. And I thought it was interesting how you jumped ahead to try to argue against what you said earlier. As far as your argument first was for manual labor. And then when I started zeroing in to try to explore the manual labor side, you jumped over here to this side and said, actually, it's hard on your body. And like, we're not there yet. It's all true. We'll get there.
I know, but as soon as you start talking in real terms, then you are there. Because you have to introduce, if you're going to bring one externality into the equation independent of the other ones, then you can do that. But then you're going to just keep going back and forth between it's a better choice.
I wasn't going back and forth. I was working for manual labor.
But you will if you like to say, okay, so there's without any externalities, we've determined labor
by
jobs
externalities
would be better.
You mean variables?
No,
right?
yes, any externality, which is any variables, any outside influence.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so independent of anything else, it would be better to have a labor job for you and maybe for society too. It just adds up better.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know. But go ahead.
So you introduce one externality.
Someone's knocking. That's probably maintenance. I'm gonna go let him in.
Okay, so basically what I'm. So as soon as I kind of need you to hear to describe this, so I won't do that. I think that if you have, for example, you introduce an externality like you work a labor law, but then you introduce, maybe you get a bad manager. You have to introduce that externality on both sides too. And it would be better to have a bad manager, say for a desk job, than it would be for a labor job, because a bad manager in a labor job might mean you get crushed by something, or, that's a big deal. And whereas a bad manager in a technology or a desk job, the worst thing that can happen is maybe there's some miscommunication and your job is made uncomfortable. That's why externalities make a big difference in the long run. And that's why I wanted to avoid introducing one at a time, because let's say we introduce that one in, but then we introduce the pay one in as an externality. Now, the pay for, even if you have a terrible manager, you get the pay externality in there. And that's so bad.
That was awful.
You get the introduced pay into there. Maybe the terrible manager, the worst manager for the labor job becomes better because the labor job makes like 3 times as much money as the desk job. Like any externalities you introduce is going to make it flip-flop back and forth as a benefit or a detriment to the overall quality of the type of job. I don't know if you kind of caught the tail end of that. Who was that?
Maintenance. You can talk as long as you want, because I just realized it might be a good idea since we can't agree on what we're talking about. You can spiel as much as you like 5 minutes, and then I'll give my presentation.
Go ahead and give yours, because I did.
Okay. All right. Okay.
What I'm worried about before you start, what I'm worried about is that you're going to not disregard the thing that I just explained because you don't understand it.
I didn't hear it.
I know.
Also, we're starting over, in my mind.
Okay.
We can use points from earlier, but all right. First of all, how long do I got? 3 minutes?
I don't care.
I care. It helps me think.
Then you decide.
3 minutes. That's a long time.
That is a long time. Too long. You have 1 minute.
1 minute. That's too short.
Oh my gosh. Just talk. Gosh.
My brain's has its limits, and I'm working with what I have.
But you just go until the things that you need to say have been said.
I don't speak well that way.
Okay.
You can if you want. I'm not going to put you on a time limit. I'm trying to help myself out here.
I know.
I'll do 2 minutes. Here we go. How about
normal
that?
people? They say, okay.
I'm not normal. I'm not going to have that argument, although that'd be a fun conversation to have. Walter, here's why you are not normal. I'm like, I'm on your side. All right, 2 minutes. The benefits, pros and cons, and what is better between manual labor and a desk job. There are obvious benefits to physical labor, and that is your mind and your body are one, and you can't really work your mind without working your body. It's not healthy. Inversely, it's possibly detrimental to your physical body to work a physical job. Pros and cons. Most people would probably contend that having a desk job is a better job to take if it paid the same, whatever. We remove the variables or externalities, as you call them. You, I think, will maintain that a manual job is better for the worker, not removing society as an externality, the worker. What should somebody choose given the choice between a physical? I think you'd choose that. I think I would choose that too, because I think, I just said we're not going to use variables, but it is more valuable to others and it is more valuable to yourself. But at the same time, I definitely cannot condone someone for saying, I'm going to choose what is physically and mentally maybe simpler to sit behind a job, maybe a desk, make it as simple as possible, make ditch digging as simple as possible, whatever it is. Your job is to wave something versus your job is to sit here. Simple as possible. Remove those variables. I can't condone someone from sitting behind a desk, though I think I personally would choose, and I think I would tell people to choose to go do a physical job. I don't see what's wrong with sitting behind a desk. So in closing, it's very hard to choose, but at the very least, 2 things. I don't think I can say it's wrong to sit behind a desk. Actually, that's it. It's not that it's not that a desk is better. It's that I cannot say it's wrong. So I think that you would be wrong to say that it is wrong to sit behind a desk, but it is good to do manual work.
Yeah.
And I'm done. Yeah,
you were right. That would be bad if I said that, and it would be wrong if I said that, because that's not true. But yeah, I pretty much agree with your comings. Cool. Your comings too. All the externalities complicated.
They really do.
And they complicate it to the umpteenth degree, and that's why it's so hard for people to pick their job. Like if you complicate it, ultimately, that's why people have indecision about it. And there's not really good or bad. There are bad managers. There are bad jobs. There are good paying jobs. There are poor paying jobs. There are fair jobs. There are unfair jobs. There are economically positive jobs, and there are economically detrimental jobs. It's just the variance is super. It's the spectrum. It's the whole spectrum.
It's immensely complicated on the opposite end. Even when I tried to remove all the variables, still wasn't clear.
Yeah.
So
here's what's an interesting thing to talk about. How much a bad manager can ruin a good job. It's so interesting, because a little bit of bad, as my mom would say, a little bit of poop in your brownie will ruin the whole thing. It's like, yeah, it doesn't take much to ruin a thing. It takes a lot to get it right.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know that any one thing can sour a job quicker than a bad manager. Like if you're subordinate to somebody, it's basically the whole thing is ruined, if you ask me. I don't know. Have you ever had a bad manager?
Yeah, I've had good bosses and bad bosses. And you said like 3 different things I thought about, but I didn't need to go there because we're going on your whatever branch is the right word. I keep saying tree. We'll go whatever branch you want to go down. So this sounds like loosey-goosey right now. If that's what you want, that's okay. I just want to understand what you want to talk about. You want me to just generally talk about good and bad manager experiences and the fact that, the worst manager I had made that job the worst job I had just because my management was so bad.
You don't have to ask me what I want to talk. I will listen. That's what the show's about.
Yeah, I agree. The worst job I had, I thought this recently, I think was bad, or the worst job, specifically because it was the worst management I ever had. Specifically that. I thought about that like a couple weeks ago, and I was like, if my bosses were like good and did their job and were reasonable, I've been fine, but that was them that ruined it.
Mm-hmm.
They were the poop in my brownie.
They were, man.
But and you said that too, and I thought I had a similar thought as a kid. I was like, it is so easy to make your room a mess, but it is so hard to keep it clean.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that? Because if I'm moving my toy from here to there, it's A or B. It's the same motion. Why is this easy and this is hard?
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is weird. But I think the reason is simply because of randomness. If you move a toy from, it's not really B, it's A, or to any letter of the alphabet in the room, as opposed to they fit in this space. I don't know.
It's actually there's a scientific term for it. It's the natural law of deterioration too. So that over time, even if things are kept stable, they deteriorate. Like you lock. I mean, if you leave food by itself, it doesn't just stay food. It will deteriorate. It turns into something else. Similarly, if you were to leave, like let's say we cleaned the house flawlessly and left for 5 years, we'd come back and it would have accumulated dust first of all, but then mold, mildew. You know, it just that's what happens. Naturally, things deteriorate if left alone. Anyway,
yeah, sorry, that's important. I went off because I just thought the poop in the brownie was interesting. But let's keep it on jobs. Do you want to make it more personal? Do you want to talk more about why your job is the worst?
No, I don't want to. I did that last night. I guess I will briefly, because last night I basically was explaining kind of what I determined about my job is, again, like I always say, I'm grateful for it. It's a great job it's any job that you have that makes you not have to worry where you're going to eat the next day is a good job.
The way I put it is, as long as my bills are paid, I'm happy.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't have to worry about what I'm going to eat tomorrow, and my bills are paid. So it's a good job. It's a very good. It's
that's
a very
more
good job.
than many people can say,
and a lot more. Frankly, I can buy cool lights and a couch. You know, it's fun. It's great.
Mm-hmm.
Now that said, I have in everything basically that I do, I at some point will do the due diligence of thinking it all the way through down to the moral level. And then to its impact level. If I don't know if that's the best way to describe it, but basically, why am I doing this? Who does it impact? And what good is it doing? Mm-hmm. I think about that stuff a lot. Mm-hmm. And the thing that I can't shake with my job is that not only am I wasting my time with it, but it does no good for anybody else ever, because my job entails that I do a good job of preparing things to be prepared well, for people who don't care if they're prepared well, to come and then not do it, not observe the things that I'm preparing. So it's basically, I'm wasting my time enslaving to do a good job doing something nobody cares if it's done well.
Yeah.
And it's very defeating. First of all, I take a lot of pride in making sure that what I do is good. But then ultimately, every time I'm doing things like 5 to 10 times a day, I go in my head, nobody cares. If this isn't done well, I will get in trouble, but nobody cares, because it'll just either get cleaned up or it won't get cleaned up, and then they'll get in trouble, and then that won't mean anything because the company will do fine. It'll make a lot of money, and it just doesn't matter. Anyway, and I don't make anybody like happy or more unhappy basically with what I'm doing, aside from the people that I interact with. And I don't know. That's not a good feeling. Mm-hmm. I bet you can imagine that not being a good feeling is if you have to do something for 40 hours a week, every week, and it doesn't matter at all. I don't know how long a reasonable person will tolerate that. I guess I'm finding out. So far, it's 10 years. 10 years is how far. Maybe I'm not a reasonable person. I don't know what you think about that. What were you thinking when I was describing that?
I had 3 thoughts. I only remember 2 of them. First one, most important, is I don't think my dad made the phrase, but I attribute it to him. Anything worth doing is worth doing well, which is just a moral compass thing to live by. Mm-hmm. But I forgot the other 2. The real problem is it comes to purpose. Mm-hmm. And I absolutely understand. What was the word you said was defeating? Mm-hmm. Yeah, discouraging, disheartening, whatever those words.
I don't know that.
I had some kind of good thought on that, and I can't remember it. If you speak, I'll remember it, and then I will want to interrupt you if you want to do that.
I have something to add to that. There was in the Gulag Archipelago, that book, there was a torture described that the Marxist government would do to the people who were thrown in the gulags, like the kulaks when they were killed and everything. And the torture was basically they would have the prisoners pick up a heavy rock and move it to the other side of the gulag. And then after they moved it to the other side, they'd have them move it back. Mm-hmm. And then the whole thing was that it's completely pointless. It's working for the sake of working, and nothing gets done. You don't get the satisfaction of having accomplished anything.
Yeah.
It's like some prisons, their goal was they would have the slaves, for all intents and purposes, build things for them. And in a weird way, a lot of the slaves found their purpose in that. But those people were so evil that they didn't want people to feel that. They would tell them, you're moving this over here. And people in their minds would be like, well, maybe I'm being starved and I don't have no water and I'm going thin and I have nothing to my name. But at the end of the day, this rock will be over there because I'm my impact in this world. Only for them to have you move it back. Anyway, I just like that one hit me extra hard. And then at some point it hit me months ago, but I was like, that's what I'm doing. I don't know. I'm obviously not starving. That's the difference. And it's I shouldn't disregard that. That's a very big difference. I'm not starving. I'm very well off.
I'm on your side. I know you're not. I know you're not trying to equate yourself to a communist slave.
Thank you. Yeah, I realized how it sounded.
And also I realize people like who in my position listen to you say that same spiel several times if I hate my job. But first, let me say, could be really annoying to people. I appreciate it being said, and I think it needs to be said every time because I think you're saying it from the right place. So I don't get tired of you saying it.
Thanks.
Yeah. You were talking about the rock moving back and forth. I was going to say, that's cool. And I mean, that's not cool to do that to people, but like the psychological thing is very intelligent. I got to credit that.
You credit the malevolence. It's really really dirty.
It's like, that's another issue I'm not going to talk about. I wish I could remember what I was going to say. I'll just talk out loud. I think this way sometimes in relation to you working your job that you hate and feeling like nothing gets done. This is not the thing. It was a thing I was going to say. People will pay you not enough to make you comfortable, but enough to make you come crawling back. That's the amount everybody pays. So that is why you go there instead of not working or working somewhere else. There is a magic number. Maybe it's evil, whatever it is. It's not the point. And it wasn't the thing I wanted to talk about. Lawnmower is very distracting.
Yeah.
Or blower, that's what it is. Leaf blower. Don't you know the sounds?
Mm-hmm.
Good work. Hey, this isn't related, but hopefully I'll bring it back around because I do want to try to answer your complete disheartening situation of having no purpose in life and how you suck.
Yeah.
No, mowing was kind of similar, but not really. Because mowing was, I'm going to mow the grass, and it's going to grow back in 3 days. It's springtime. Mm-hmm. So it's like I wasn't even here. What's the point? Well, I get paid. That's the main difference. That was annoying for a while. But at the same time, at the end of the summer, like in the long picture, at the end of the year, I kind of think about the houses and I go, yeah, in those 3 days, it's like what I did didn't matter. But at the end of the year, if you were to walk by that house every day for the year, you go, that is a good looking house, is a good looking lawn, because in long term it did make a difference.
Yeah.
But I wasn't there to see the difference.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't live in the house. I didn't get to look at the lawn every day. That's a good looking lawn.
I think
the moral to that is there is another dimension to what we do that we sometimes can't see. And the short end of that answer for me in my life is God's plan. I don't have to know why. I just have to know who. And then that's comforting enough for me. So if my circumstances are bad, I may not be able to, it may be that they only seem bad because I can't see the good that's happening. Anyway, I know that's really superficial and gaga. It probably doesn't help you at all, but that's something I was thinking about.
Yeah.
All right.
For a while, you can, and when you have like, let's say you have a goal and the goalpost is constantly moving, which is all my job is. It's because it's constantly incoming flow. You can take pride in the fact that you can keep up basically. If you're getting more behind, well, I'm just not doing my job then. But if you can find a way to make sure nothing falls behind and it's because of you, you can kind of take pride in that. Similarly, if you do a good job, you can take pride in that. Like, you can feel good that the impact you had, even if it's a pointless job and that there's always more to do, it's like, well, I did it well. And then another factor is like affirmation. Like, let's say you're mowing the lawn every 3 days and it feels, and maybe this is a place where there's no winter. So it's all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You do have to do this every 3 days, all the time. And then you get an affirmation once every month or something. A neighbor comes by, wow, it looks great. That might be enough. That to you would be like, yeah, I'm doing this all the time, and most of it's unseen, but it's seen by someone. And then, so imagine that, but then the affirmations stop, and then you're told, oh, but you have to mow everybody's lawn. And also, we didn't tell you this, but we noticed that the house is dirty too. And I'm thinking, then you think, well, I'm only supposed to mow the lawn. Like that's kind of what desk jobs amount to a lot of times. That's what mine is now too. It's like, well, I had this and I could hang my hat on. I did this well, but then it's like, yeah, well, you did that well, but all these other things are bad too, and that's your fault. It's like, oh, well, I didn't know. That's a lot of kind of what I'm dealing with, which is a bummer.
What you're talking about is the work side of enough to pay the bills, but not enough to make you miserable enough to come back. So inversely, instead of the desk job side of that, the manual labor side, you and I worked at UPS. We were the best on our belts.
Yeah.
And then because of that, they reward you with more work.
Yeah.
So that whatever the term is for that phenomenon, whatever it's called, when you're doing well, so therefore you don't get less work, you get more work.
Yeah.
You get punished essentially for working well. That exists in all kinds of work. So anyway,
you know what they say?
What do they say?
There's a scientific study that says in all companies, 80% of the people do 20% of the work.
I read that 10%
and some
90% of the work.
Well, in corporations, it's 90% do 10% of the work, and vice versa. In every job, 80% of the people do 20% of the work. That's the all around. But in corporations like the one I work at, the average is 90% of the people do 10% of the work, and 10% of the people do 90% of the work.
I am familiar with that.
And you learn really quickly who that 10% is.
Yeah.
I remember in my old job, it was sort of divorced from the rest of the bank, which was really interesting. And so there was always work to do. But then I went to my new department, and all of a sudden I realized, oh, I'm doing like almost everything that this bank needs done, kind of thing. And unfortunately, now that I've got my toe dipped into that part and people know that, oh, he does all that work. If I moved to a different department and then it became part of that 90%, then people know because they know what you were doing before. Anyway. Mm-hmm. Once you're one of those hard workers, it'd be like if we were working on Pink Belt and then you just started loading 500 packages a day and people were like, but you averaged like 1,200 last week. It's like they've noticed and then you get punished for it. Yep. It's like once you establish if it's a good worker, then you get more, probably unfairly, even though technically maybe you're capable of it. That's the other problem.
This is starting to bring it back around. I was going to mention how talk about how physical work, you get punished with more work. So in the example of the belt, I had this moral dilemma of, well, I can do more. I can work harder. So I should work harder because it's the right thing to do because I want to work to my potential. Mm-hmm. But then an argument could be made for the, quote, smart guy working at a steady pace over here, not working hard, getting paid the same amount. No one's telling him to work harder.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you do that? Very similarly, that is the guy who can't choose between, do I take a manual labor job or a desk job and get paid the same?
Yeah. So
given the choices that we've had, we choose the hard work. Now, the final question might be, because, on the belts, we chose to work hard, regardless of whether or not we wanted to take it back, because you can after that. But you choose to work hard at your job, or chose to over the years to get to such a place where they reward you with more work. So the question might be, for ourselves, why do we choose hard work?
Mm-hmm.
Imagine you actually have to justify this to somebody like myself. Ask you, why would you do that to yourself? Mm-hmm. Not necessarily antagonistically, but why do you do that? Do you think?
Because of my dumb upbringing, and that's the good thing to do.
Upbringing meaning
that's
values?
what you were trained to do. Yeah, well, yeah, value, like your higher value system.
And what might that value be? Explain this to me as another rational human being who doesn't understand why you wouldn't just take the easy job.
Well, okay, so for one thing, my hard work that I've done has brought opportunities. Like even if I'm not getting the opportunities that lucky people are getting, I had steady growth in all my jobs I've ever taken. And I know that I can attribute that to working hard. There's a lot of other factors into getting promotions and stuff too. Like you're outgoing in your disagreeableness. Like you have to be a weird level of disagreeable to have success in companies too. You have to be agreeable enough to get along with everybody, but disagreeable enough to push back against the management without offending them. It's very weird. It's very, very weird. And I think that I've done that mostly well. Unfortunately, boy, I need to be careful. Do
you want me to interrupt?
Go ahead. If you have something.
Well, I was bringing it back around because while I don't know if I have an answer to why do I do something that has no purpose, I have an answer to why you're doing it.
Yeah, I do too. Otherwise, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, but we know that we do it. But the reason that you do it is because that's who you are, because you are a hard worker and the future may reward you, and it has rewarded you. Yeah. So hopefully that's enough. Life isn't fair, as we know. There have been places where we've been punished for working harder, and there have been places, I'm sure if you think in your life, where you've been rewarded for working harder. But I know stuff sucks right now, but I don't. Yeah. See, my answer isn't sufficient, because I think in this life you might get to see the fruits of your work and your righteousness. But for me, I like to think it's been true that if I don't see them, I'm still okay, because I believe that they exist even if I don't see them. Mm-hmm. Which is probably crazy, but
yeah. Well, and I'm not perfect either. I don't want to just pat myself on the back and say I always work all the way hard. If I had the option, let's say nobody else is in the office, am I going to be slaving away? No. I'm going to freaking chill out because I can, and like I've earned it, in my opinion. I don't know. I don't know. There's a lot of other things that I said I need to be careful, and because I want to get into this, but I don't know. I could say some stuff that's not okay. And for instance, I wanted to get into the fact of like the people you work with at work and how much the environment changes when it's primarily women. Like it changes a lot, and trying to be careful. I would say generally more gets done, but there's this weird. And it depends. If you're a certain disposition, personality-wise, like I am, you very quickly, it's almost like, and I don't know why this is, and I think this is not just a women thing, but this is a people thing. If you have all a similar disposition, then if there's anything that's different, there's sort of a weird attack the different thing mentality. I don't know what you think about this, but for example, without saying too much, where I work, it's almost all women. Like my bosses are all women. My coworkers are all women. All of my superiors are all women. And I find more often than not, if there's going to be someone excluded from things or targeted or punished for things, it's going to be me. Partly because what I do is a little bit of everything, because I do everything for them. But it's very weird. And I technically, the hard part is that it's not confirmable. Like I can't go to human resources and say, there's attempts to, throw me under the bus for things that aren't my fault. And technically I can't do anything to satisfy these people kind of deal. But then they're like, well, give us examples. And it's like, I don't know, the way they treat me, like you could just watch and you'd see that. But it's stuff like that without throwing, and they're not always that way. It's weird because just like an individual woman, you can imagine a witchy type woman who's sometimes really nice And sometimes it's just like really mean. You know, it's almost like the culture, it can manifest that type of behavior where the whole body can, I don't know, treat you differently for being dispositionally different. Like, for instance, I'm argumentative and I'm efficient. And so I always will press to do the most efficient and best way to do things. And generally when I do that and there's an older, more convoluted, dumb way to do things, I will get corrected and say, no, we do it this way. And I say, well, there's no reason to do it that way because this is a better way and it gets the job done way faster and more expediently, more accurately. And then there's normally a fence that happens and, you know, tattling and then conversations. And it's like, I'm paid to do the best job I possibly can. But then when I do it, I get in trouble. Anyway, it's very, very weird. And I've never had to deal with that personality in a group before. This is the first time I've worked with all women. And maybe that's a coincidence that this particular group is like that. I'm almost certainly to some degree that's the case. I do wonder if they would behave that way if there was dudes in there.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
That wasn't your phone call?
No, it wasn't.
Ah, okay. I do wonder if it wouldn't be different if there was a little bit healthier balance of men and women there. Maybe I wouldn't be the butt of jokes or the dirt rug.
Yeah,
What do you think about this? The idea that certain groups of people, when they see a different thing, attack the different thing because it's different.
Well, that is not a crazy idea. That's majority versus minority is what that is.
Yeah.
But as far as a gendered workplace, we all have our own experiences, and what you described line up with my personal experiences. For example, I can say at one of my jobs where it was mostly females, very different than the jobs I had where they're mostly males.
Mm-hmm.
And you explained a general or an idea of a potential like for working with girls, and then there's a bitchiness as an example.
Mm-hmm.
Inversely, if you work with guys, there could be like this really bro sexist atmosphere, whatever.
Yeah.
Because that's just the majority. So like how you describe being marginalized because you're the odd man out, literally in your workplace. Yeah. Inversely, a woman could feel the same way in a workplace with guys. Totally.
And that sounds worse to me than being the odd man.
I know what bad dudes are like, so I wouldn't want to be a girl.
Yeah.
But
be fair though,
the girls do bad things too. You don't need any more examples than that. I think I made my point.
Yeah.
But then the last thing was, shoot, I forgot. You have to prod me for it. And I forgot the thing I was going to talk about before anyway.
It's not good. It's not good, especially when technically there's no rules to protect against things like that. Like they say that there are in a lot of workplaces, like there's no disparate treatment. But, you know,
there's a line.
Well, in society, it is. I had a conversation. I told you about this, but I had a conversation with human resources at one point because I had a female manager who had promised me something.
Yeah.
That I worked for. When it came time to get that, she changed. She went back on her promise, and I was extremely offended by that because I'd never gone back on anything I'd said, no less a promise in a workplace. So I basically, I complained all the way up through the chain, got all the way up to human resources, and I met with them, and they basically said, "Well, we know that that person made you this promise." But that's not a promise they were allowed to give, so we can't fulfill that. And I thought to myself, but she's the person who can make that decision. So if she does, you can change policy to do that. Well, and they're like, well, no, that's not what we're going to do. And I remember I had this conversation with this very nice HR lady. She was great about it. But then, because what I was asking for was an exceptional circumstance, but it wasn't like a big deal. I had arranged it all myself, and I had set it up to where it'd be beneficial for me and the company. They went back on it because it would help their cause to have me work more, obviously. That's why they did it. So anyway, it kind of added up to this HR lady going, okay, so I'm going to paint a scenario for you. And she brought up, imagine we employ you and then we employ a minority female worker with children. And then she has the same request that you do. And her manager tells her that we can't do the request that your manager told you. It wouldn't be fair for you, a white young male, to be given something that this minority female mother would get. And as soon as I heard minority, my blood, I didn't get offended. I'm not being.
She could have made her point the same way by saying, if someone else and you had the same job as you,
right,
one of these things, and we couldn't give it to him, but we gave it to you, wouldn't be fair to this other guy. The same point.
Right.
Same point.
Well, and because I'm amiable, and I didn't say that sounds like you're being racist by bringing up my white race.
That's odd.
But I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah.
I don't want to play their dumb games. I could technically say you brought up race when it wasn't necessary in a conversation with human resources. I think that's inappropriate. What I did say, and to my credit, I did say this. I said, I don't see how that's a fair example at all. I don't see what a single female minority mother has to do with my request that I made with my manager, independent of anybody else. And I said, furthermore, I think if another person made the same request I did, and they had satisfied the conditions for that request, then they should be given that too, because that's fair. That's what a business is about.
Yeah.
She goes, I guess I agree with you. I mean, but philosophically,
no.
this company doesn't do that. Basically, she said, philosophically, the bank won't allow that. That's not part of the bank philosophy. And she said, if you wanted the philosophy of the bank to change, you'd have to speak to the president. And I thought about it.
Yeah. And I thought about it. No, I can feel I can feel your anger like a dark side.
Yeah, it was, well, and I thought it was so mind blowing.
Because I understand between you and me how frustrated you have to be to actually take the step toward speaking to the next person in the chain, because these guys were pretty, as you said, we're amiable. Like, all right, it sucks, but it has to get bad enough. It can get bad enough. There is such a threshold to where I have to do something about this. And it got bad enough to where you've taken several steps in that direction.
Yeah.
Which is especially bad because, like I said, we wouldn't.
So here's the other thing.
It was kind of bad to begin with.
If I was more principled and brave, I would have taken it to the president and risked becoming a hot button in that president's eyes. Like, you don't ever want to bring
fired and all that.
Right. Like, the first thing you don't want to be is on like the president's bad side.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this guy wants to talk to me because he has a complaint about how I build my company. That's pretty bad, especially if you're a grunt worker kind of deal. Anyway. All that to say, the last thing that sort of happened is, oh shoot, I forgot it. I forgot what I was going to say. Oh yeah, this is what I was going to say. This was sort of the last nail in the coffin of frustrating conversation with human resources in a company where everything's red tape.
And you remind you need to be careful.
Yeah, I do. If they listen to this, we can talk. We can talk. But HR said, would you like to put in a formal complaint against your manager who promised something they weren't able to give you? And I said, well, I would like to. What does that entail? And they said, well, it entails describing the situation as accurately as possible and naming the people involved and the circumstance and requesting discipline on their action. And I'm thinking in my head, so what do you do with that information? They go, well, we confront the accused with the charges for all intents and purposes, with the accusation, and we get their side of the story on it. And I said, so what you mean to say is I put in this formal complaint and then you go straight to them and tell them that I complain, my boss? They're like, yeah. But they said, but they can't treat you any differently because of it. And I said,
good luck with that.
Well, this is when I looked at them and I said, but you know. And she goes, yeah, I know. And I remember thinking in my moment, you're even admitting that there's disparate treatment right now. But what are you going to do? It doesn't matter if it's disparate treatment against a young white male, I guess. That was the thing that ultimately got me. I also am big and intimidating. I'm a 6'1", 200-pound dude with facial hair. Like, if I walk into a small woman's office and I start complaining and start saying, well, it doesn't matter that I'm a white man, blah, blah, blah. What do you're the bad guy, instantly in their mind. So it's like, there's not a way for me to come out of this and not have everybody hate me. Even if I'm right, even if I get all the things that I want, you don't want to work in a place where you've threatened everybody, more or less. I don't know. it was a bad situation all around. And thankfully after that happened, this was a weird kind of prayer thing. But basically after that happened, I had real big moral qualms with working under that person, to the degree I was probably a month away from putting in my notice and saying, I can't work for this person anymore because I don't respect or trust them. Mm-hmm. Because it was a big deal. It was a big deal to me. And they were fired like 2 weeks later. And I thought, that seems like the kind of thing, even if I don't wish that on anybody.
Yeah.
Like I root for that person still, that manager, despite what they did. Uh-huh. But that seems like the kind of thing that God says, you know, hey, I see what happened. That wasn't cool. And I know things suck for you, but I don't want you to worry about where you're going to work next, Zach. You can still work there. Mm-hmm. I don't know. That's kind of what it felt like to me in a weird existential sense.
I agree.
What do you think, man?
Well, same way. Well, I feel your pain as well. Well, it's not really a contest, but I had to kill my father. And going on to a quote. No, yeah. I think that's the right attitude. I don't wish harm or bad fortune on anybody. Mm-hmm. So even if someone who treated me unfairly loses their potential livelihood, I don't want that. I just want, like when you were saying earlier, you didn't say this, but in your position, I don't want to put a complaint for the reasons you said, being I don't want to be the winner who everybody hates kind of a thing, but also because I don't want this person to suffer for, even though they were unjust. That doesn't really fix anything. Right.
It's like, I'm not out to punish people.
Like,
I'm out to
you didn't give me what I want. So now I'm going to slap you in the face. No, that's not the right thing to do.
Precisely.
So I understood that too. And I agree.
Mm-hmm. I think I did that situation as right as anyone can handle a crappy situation. Both the conversations with the managers and the conversations with human resources and all that stuff. Like, I don't know that there's a good way to handle a situation in which the system bones you. Because morally, you turn the other cheek. Yeah, but a system isn't a person too. So at some level.
Well, it's a lot more clear when there literally was a person on the receiving end of this system. You needed to not strike. So
yep,
it's pretty badass.
It's pretty bad. I think companies are all a little bit corrupt, and it doesn't help when there's all these posturing modern ideas about equality and stuff. And with all good intentions, but with all good intentions come terrible things all the time. Injustices and things alike. And I'm not saying that that's the case where I work. I think that things could be a lot better for a lot of reasons, a lot of places too. And, everybody has to deal with that stuff though. Everyone has to deal with that. Maybe this might be the most I've ever had to deal with it to this date. And that's why it's been weighing on me.
This isn't profound, but we can agree that your pointless job, if that's what you want to call it, as an example, would be less debilitating if the people you worked for did not suck. If you had,
I'm letting you say it.
Yeah, it's my job. You just listen. Uh-huh. Any workplace should be improved if the people you worked with or before were good, regardless of the crap work you're doing. For example, UPS, hard, fairly pointless work as far as a machine could do this. Maybe. Fairly pointless. People still get their goods, whatever. There's virtue, but the men you worked with were being men, were lifting heavy objects and covered in sweat, cuss words, and then that was oddly fulfilling.
Yeah,
but it would have been totally different if everyone you worked with was like the one boss patrolling outside doing nothing but bring everybody down.
Yeah, that'd be terrible.
Despite that job being bad as far as income versus our permanent damage to our backs, we enjoyed the work.
Yeah.
So
like I said, it's not profound. I look back at that job as being one of my favorites.
Yeah, it's so weird and dumb. It's like an abusive relationship. I look back on it fondly, even though it was very bad.
Yeah.
Because we both got our backs damaged from there. Permanently.
I have a theory as to why I look back on it fondly. It has something to do with the way dopamine is released in your brain when physical exercise is happening.
And the camaraderie and actual hard work.
Yeah. And I had some awesome conversations in those trailers with the other dudes. Like when you're like sweating and slaving away and you're stuck in a trailer with another man, another sentient being who has had life experiences for like 4 hours, you just never know what you're going to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Like some of my favorite conversations with strangers have happened in that place.
Yeah.
Like I talked to, what's his name? The ghost hunter. And I just like, he had so many stories.
Mm-hmm.
He has a YouTube channel that I don't know how to find. And he has a ghost sighting
Too
on
bad.
video.
Cool. Our tiny channel could shout him out. Hey, shout out to a stranger who
I know
worked with.
I know what his name was. His name was Ty. T-Y. That's it.
There was a really cool dude. It was a really cool dude I worked with too. I can't remember his name, but I remember his car. It was a normal red Matrix, not an impressive car. I just remember cars.
Mm-hmm.
That's what car guys are. There's a joke about how, what's his name? I don't know. He drives a 300 Subaru Z with a twin turbo and the Delkevic exhaust. Oh, that guy. Like I know the person by their car.
Yeah.
Anyway,
there's a guy there who was a minor league baseball player that I worked with, and he talked about what it was like being a minor league baseball player. It was really interesting, that guy, because I didn't realize how much it sucked for minor league baseball players. There's a meme I saw about it the other day, and it said, baseball is weird because one day you're eating ramen because that's all you can afford, and the next day you have $100 million. And that's almost exactly it, because if you're called up to the major leagues, if you just happen to get a batting average over a certain amount, or if a team needs you, then all of a sudden you have health care for the whole year, and you get instantly like hundreds of thousands of dollars. And it's like, yeah,
that's weird.
Whoa, it is weird. It is weird. Minor leaguers don't get paid very much.
I wish they should change the phrase from rags to riches to ramen to riches. That's more relatable, and like people are like, yeah, no one's ever had rags as a poor, but we all know we all know ramen.
Yeah,
we've all had ramen when we're poor. That's.
I still have ramen sometimes when I'm feeling like treating myself.
I think I'll make a shirt. It's like a bag, and there's like wavy noodles going on one side, and wavy dollar bills coming out the other.
Oh yeah, ramen to riches.
From ramen to riches. That's
charming.
That should be the phrase.
Yeah.
Everybody, like, you understand it.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right.
What a badass shirt.
That's
stupid. Great.
Stupid.
We need to start making
do
merch.
Because ramen's trademarked. You can't actually do it, so it had to be.
No, ramen's not trademarked. Ramen is a type of noodle.
Oh, maybe. I don't know. Whatever.
Ramen is not trademarked.
I'll still use the phrase.
It'd be like saying spaghetti to riches. It's the same thing. It's like, you're good. It's a ramen goes,
someone monetized my spaghetti.
Oh, I own all the spaghetti in world.
I own all the spaghetti in world. That'd be pretty smart though, to trademark the word ramen
or pizza. No,
there was a scam like that already trying to happen with something. So that's already been done. But yeah, okay. Anyway, not important. The point is, okay. Challenge quickly, despite the fact that you won. That was the challenge. You beat it. I wasn't going to tell you how to play it, and you won. No. Despite the fact that everything sucks, try to briefly give someone in your situation some hope.
The hope is you're going to die one day, and then you don't have to deal with it anymore.
No. I'm going to try first. Anything worth doing is worth doing well. Man may not see what you do, but you see what you do. And hopefully that's enough.
I actually agree with that completely, because it's the same way that people say the person that you talk to. No,
encourage them. Don't encourage me.
The same way that people say that you're around you more than anybody else, so it's important you treat you well. That's the same kind of thing. It's like you can have pride in yourself if you know you gave it your best, even if it was pointless. Like, you think about...
You'll never have pride doing the minimum.
You think about people who take on tasks and stories that are impossible to overcome for all intents and purposes. You think about the 300, movie, where it's like, you're going to lose, but you took on an impossible task, and you think of those people as heroes. It's a similar kind of thing, even if you're, I don't know. I think braving things despite knowing you're going to lose is cool as a story, because then you'll know you have done it.
So your short answer is, hey, I know you're working hard, and I think you're pretty cool. I want you to know that I think you're pretty cool.
Here's what'll make you feel better. If you're in the same situation, I will personally come over and reach in your pants and touch whatever private parts you want me to touch for like 30 seconds.
Wow. I was totally expecting that was a way more crass version of saying, I will personally come over and kiss you on the lips. Like,
I don't want it to be sexual. I just will touch your privates.
This is transactional. You work hard and I will do this for you.
I'll tell you what, you can pick between the private's touch and a forehead kiss and a pat on the cheek and me saying, my boy. I go
physically imagining that kiss, my boy.
Yeah, that's it. That's what I'll give you.
Yeah, honestly, I'm not sure. Those both uncomfortable.
Yeah. That or I'll let you touch my parts. That's not funny.
Yeah, it's not.
Anyways,
it's uncomfortable, which is why it's funny.
Yeah, I just wanted to pick something slightly uncomfortable.
Right. Yeah, I get it.
Nobody wants that.
Yeah, I get it.
But I'll offer it so that I will have offered something freely. I won't touch you in the privates, by the way, even if you ask and if you want to do that.
Even if you've earned it, I won't do it.
I need to tell the truth. I won't do it.
Speak the truth.
I won't do it. I would kiss your forehead and pat you on the cheek and say, my boy.
Yeah, I would.
Would you do that? Would you do that?
I would do that as a reward.
So someone walks up to us. We're eating waffles at Waffle House. Someone comes up to us. I'm the listening show. I'm a big fan. Oh, thanks for listening to the listening show. What's going on? I have the terrible job like Zach does. I was hoping I could get the my boy pat. Okay, we would stand up right there.
Right there in the restaurant with a bunch of strangers watching. What the fuck was that?
My boy.
And then I go, my boy. They're like, what? Where are these guys from?
Yeah.
I would do
it.
We
would do it.
Hey, we'll give you that. If you work hard and you can look at us with a straight face and say you have pride in what you do.
Yeah.
We'll give you a kiss on the forehead, pat in the cheek, and say, my boy.
We'll give you the my boy. That's what it's called. The my boy.
The my boy.
All right. Thanks for joining us on the listening show. My boys, my precious sweet boys.
Thanks you and work hard.
My sweet boys, my sweet precious boys.